All right, good day to you. My name is Fred Oakman, and as always with me today is Mr. Jake Peters. We are PS This Is Awesome, a PlayStation podcast. This is episode 162. This is a show where we share our feelings about the current state of PlayStation, and before we get on with the show, I'd like to invite you all to subscribe to our channel on YouTube, which is youtube.com/PS This Is Awesome, and visit us on Twitter at PS This Is Awesome and Tumblr, psthisisawesome.tumblr.com. That's the one you want to go to. It has all of our previous episodes on there. But if you want to make fun of our trophy lists on the PSN, you can find me at anchorless_81 and Mr. Jake Peters at jakesaw01. As always, you can write the show at psthisisawesome@gmail.com. And most importantly, do not forget to share this show with your friends and be sure to leave your comments and rate the podcast as you see fit. Jake, how are you this evening? Tired?
Pretty tired.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm good.
I'm with you, man. I had a long day at work today. We're recording this on Wednesday. I don't even know the actual date today. It is the 23rd. So we are a day from Christmas Eve and 2 days from Christmas, or the holiday that you celebrate, per se. But yeah, I already told you my weird pumpkin roll story, and I was going to share it with the listeners, but there's really no need. Essentially, the bottom line was I moved my brother into his new house on Friday, this past Friday. I got home. My doorbell doesn't work at my house. I need a new one. And I was exhausted. I shed my coat, and then I went to my front door to check my mail. But there were just two people standing on my doorstep. And one guy looked like really emaciated and like not very well fed and like unkept. And he was with like an 11-year-old girl. And they both tried to sell me a pumpkin roll for $10. And I was just so frustrated with the day, I just bought the pumpkin roll. And Jake, as a follow-up to that story, I guess these people were going all over Crawford County because like a couple, or at least Meadville, a couple people I work with said that they had a similar experience and no one bought anything off of them. But I did buy the pumpkin roll and it's still untouched in my refrigerator. So I might be taking it to my parents for Christmas. They've scheduled Christmas for us like in blocks, the children, which is interesting because I don't know if that would actually prevent the COVID spread. You know, if any of us have it, I guess maybe it could technically.
You'll just all. I mean, it might help a little bit, but
it depends on.
Likely is you'll all just get it through your parents.
Yeah, right. That's possible. Yeah, but I mean, it's gonna be. They've been masking up and safe, but really, they just wanted me to stop by briefly on Christmas. So I'm thinking about taking them that pumpkin roll. I mean, with the disclaimer that I got it from these two people that just showed up at my door. And what was so funny about it is when I answered the door, I didn't realize they'd be there, so I visibly like jumped backwards. And I remember just telling them, I'm just checking my mail. So imagine ringing somebody's doorbell, which I'm sure they did, but mine doesn't work. They didn't know that. Having someone come to the door and then tell you that they're just checking the mail. That probably seemed like the rudest thing ever. But again, they weren't masked and they were strangers on my doorstep trying to sell me food that they probably made in their dirty kitchen. Trying not to be an asshole, but they literally pulled the pumpkin roll out of the girl's backpack, which was just covered in aluminum foil. And though it smells really good, it is suspect. It's very sus, the pumpkin roll. So anyways, that's my story. It's my crazy Christmas story. They got $10 off me. I was happy to help them any way I could. But I don't know if I'm going to touch that pumpkin roll, man. You said you don't get many people coming to your place.
Not unless they're trying to sell me religion.
Yeah, which is also a really weird thing to try to sell
somebody.
I've
had people literally stop at my house, and when I answer the door, all that they say is, we're not trying to sell you anything. We just want to read you a Bible verse real quick.
What?
And I'm like, okay. And so they just, because I don't want to be an ass or whatever, and I don't really care.
Right,
so
yeah.
I just sat there and like listened to him read it, or like, because the one time it happened, it was like this little old lady, and I was like, then this means something to her because she's going around and doing this.
Absolutely.
So I was like, all right, I'll let you, it's not like it was cold or anything like that. So
yeah,
I let her read it to me and then she went off. But
I mean, did she ask you for like your impression or your opinion of what she read, or she just read it and she literally was like, okay, have a good day?
Yeah. I mean, pretty much she was just like, I hope, that
there was something in that for you.
Helps you with your day or something like that. I mean, it was like something along those lines.
Very kind-spirited, well, sure.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting. Man, yeah, you live out in the middle of nowhere now, but yeah, people still find their way to your doorstep these days. And despite the pandemic and everything else going on, it's wild. It's a wild world we're living in. But yeah, we are PS. This is awesome. We're going to keep this a short episode. Like I said, this is episode 162. There hasn't been a whole lot of news. Most of the news that I saw and was able to glean off the internet was still related to Cyberpunk 2077. We had a very long last episode about that game, so I'm just going to touch on a few little things about that we didn't cover on the last show, things that have transpired. So I thought we'd have a quick pre-Christmas show, Jake, and there was a new Cyberpunk patch that dropped today, and it was patch 1.06, and it indicates that it improved memory management and stability, resulting in fewer crashes on consoles, and one specific quest fix. So this patch was almost 17 gigabytes, though, which is pretty large for a quest that not a quest, but a patch that just improves memory management. So I will say that after the patch downloaded, I went back in and there was more traffic on my game, which is interesting. So
well, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, it was nice. So while we're on the topic, though, it'd be wrong to maybe not mention, Jake, on the show that Sony did pull the PS4 version from their digital PSN store. But in my opinion is we've talked enough about Cyberpunk, so we can move on from it for a bit. But
I mean, honestly, my biggest thing about it, they shouldn't have fucking pulled it. They should have just put a disclaimer on the page that said, like, this game is known to run like asshole on base PS4.
Yeah, because you were kind of interested in getting a copy for this break, right?
Yeah. And chances are now that I can't get it digitally, I'm just going to wait. I have no... I mean, I have to be really, really interested to be willing to buy a physical copy of a game anymore.
Yeah, no, I get that.
And it's just incredibly irritating, especially a game like Cyberpunk that comes on 2 fucking discs. So,
yeah,
you know, I don't want to have to deal with that. I think the internet is being a little bit. I mean, we talked about it last week. Like, yeah, they fucked up the launch or whatever of this game. But
they're being a little harsh, I think.
I've been thinking about it a little more. Like, there's been talk about like investors maybe suing CD Projekt Red over the launch of this game and stuff. And
it wasn't
like, come the fuck on. They still, regardless of the game, could have been a steaming pile of shit. They still sold 13 million copies in the first week. So, as an investor, I mean, you should be creaming your pants over that. Fucking. Yeah, you know, bitching about it.
Go ahead.
You know, I get that the optics are bad, but I love that there's so much revisionist history about fucking The Witcher 3 too, because The Witcher 3, you know, I've been reading a lot about it, and The Witcher 3 launched in a similar state of Cyberpunk. Like, it absolutely was fucking terrible, especially on PC. They fixed it, and now it's this critical darling. So I have to imagine that the same thing is going to happen with Cyberpunk. It may take a few months. It may take a year. I don't know. But I think it's going to end up being this like kind of monolith game that people are going to look at the end of the generation. It's unfortunate. I think CD Projekt, it's probably not like the greatest strategy, but I think part of it is that their games are so vast that part of me wonders if they launch the games in these states almost on purpose, because they can let essentially what ends up happening is that the player base finds all the bugs for them to fix. Because you have to imagine that it would be really hard for like a QA team to play through a game this vast and complicated and find all of these bugs. So part of me wonders if that's kind of part of what they're doing. Although if that's the case, maybe they should have released it in like an early access version, but the game is too large for them to do that. I don't know. It's fucking weird.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like one of those things where I don't think that people are being necessarily too harsh, but I think that they're jumping on somewhat of a proverbial bandwagon. You know what I mean? It's like one of those things where it's like, okay, we get it. The launch wasn't great. And in fact, it was pretty abysmal, but mainly really bad for PS4 and last gen consoles. PC, I haven't heard of there being any issues at all.
I mean, other than the bugs.
The bugs, which can be hammered out. The crashes on the PS5, on the PS4, and on the Xbox One, and the Series X, the crashes are the big thing where the game just shuts off. And I did hear that there's issues with save games being corrupted. Once there's something weird going on with for every item that you craft, it somehow saves the fact that item exists in the world, and whether you deconstruct the item or sell it or get rid of it, whatever, it still saves that item to your save file. And once your save file exceeds so many megabytes, it corrupts the file and you can't reload the game. So that's like a really big issue going on with it right now. So if you're using like some sort of crafting mechanics in the game, which you should be able to do because it's an RPG, it is causing eventually like the breakage of the save file. So that's a big issue, and they think that that's connected to crafting. So, I mean, there are some legitimate things to be pissed off about, but at the same time, I heard the argument that, like, you can't, well, you can, but you can't bitch about them crunching to get the game done and then on the same hand, bitching about the game not running well. Like, it's weird. You can, I take that back. You can bitch about that stuff. But it's like, you got to kind of pick one side or the other. And I get that CD Projekt Red is completely responsible for the management of their time and the release of the game. And they are controlled by investors, like you said, Jake. And if the investors were so fucking hot to have this game get released, then maybe it's the investors who maybe need to take some of the shit here. If they put the pressure on the CD Projekt Red's management and the board of directors to get this game out and the game wasn't ready, who knows those conversations that happen behind the doors, right? But we do know that they were really, the media attacked CD Projekt Red for the crunch that was going on. And man, this isn't fair to the workers, this isn't fair to this. And then, well, if they hadn't crunched, what kind of state would this game have released in? I don't know. Like, what do you want? Do you want Cyberpunk out as soon as you possibly get your hands on it? Do you want them to wait? Do you want them to crunch? Do you not want them to crunch? These are fucking things that, like, it's easier to say and ridicule these things and these releases than it is to really dive deep and kind of look into why they happened and what's going on. Clearly, there's some mismanagement. Clearly, it wasn't in the best shape when it was released. But there are some major issues going on here. And, I think that sometimes, and I'm not trying to be trite or rude, but I do think sometimes it's easy to jump on a bandwagon and say, well, this is the problem, point the finger. Well, I don't know what the solution was because everybody who had the game pre-ordered was bitching to Cyberpunk constantly. Every time they pushed the game back, it was a big bitch fest. It was like, something's wrong with this game. Why is it getting pushed back? We need our game. We bought it already. Why do we keep getting this? And then they felt the pressure from the fans and from everybody that pre-ordered it to probably owe them a game. And they probably felt bad about pushing it back. And in the meantime, they probably had investors saying, what the hell are you doing with all our money? Like, it's been 8 years in development. Like, why is this game not out yet? And they've got their hands on something really spectacular. So at some point, you have to shit or get off the pot. And they're probably like, we're just going to put it out there and we're just going to patch it as we go. It worked with The Witcher. We're going to try it this way. But it backfired crazy on them this time. So, and rightfully so, it should have to a degree, at some point.
I mean, it only backfired as much as it did because this game has so much more hype than the other ones.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, I think that the thing about, like, them not delaying it again is, like, I feel like people really overstate how much delaying a game actually hurts it.
Right.
Because, every time you delay a game, it's like people get pissed off and they're like, and they grumble. And then maybe a few people will cancel their pre-orders or whatever. But like a week later, everyone forgets about it and nobody cares. I mean, we could talk about CD Projekt Red all the time. I mean, especially with like them fucking bitching about crunch, which is stupid because CD Projekt Red has profit sharing with their employees. So you know how much their employees are fucking making off of this game?
I don't know yet. I've heard that like they were getting a payout for like bonuses or something. I don't know.
Dude, I don't know what the specific numbers are, but imagine that, like, they were to get like.
Well, I can tell you that their stock is dropping major right now. Even though you're right, I heard that the game legitimately paid for itself already. All the money, all the promotion. Think about, like I mentioned on the one show, like I have friends who aren't video game players who are now playing video games because I think they've seen trailers for Cyberpunk and we're like, oh, I want to get into this. It's right. Like they put so much money into the promotion and campaigning this game. They have toys, they have figures, they have office chairs, they probably have graphics cards that are like branded with Cyberpunk. I mean, they put so much money into this thing, and to think that they have earned it all back already is insane. And the game has only been out for maybe a week and a half. Now, how much of that money is going to get refunded, I don't know. How many people are actually going to ask for
very little. I mean, I think that from what I understand, I just saw a post today or yesterday that said even with all the refunds, they've still sold 13 million units.
That's insane.
So like, I mean,
and we don't even have the PS5 version yet. We don't have the next gen console version yet. They're going to sell those probably.
I mean, if you look at like, I don't think there are very many, if any, PlayStation games like PlayStation exclusives like Uncharted or Spider-Man or anything that have sold much more than that. I think Spider-Man is the most, and it sold like maybe 15 million units or something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, that's just it's crazy.
Cyberpunk sold it in a week. So this is like, I mean, it's like freaking Grand Theft Auto 5 when it came out, and the game cost $400 million, but it paid for itself in one day.
Yeah, it's insane.
Like, okay, I mean,
I just don't understand. I understand to a degree why the stocks are dropping, because there's so much negative press about this, and it's getting blown out of proportion. I hate to say it's getting blown out of proportion, because it was a travesty, because I think the game's great. And it could have definitely had a way better start had they just pushed it back maybe 4 or 5 more months, maybe even 6 months to get these kinks worked out of it. But they didn't. And, I've heard people argue that they had to make this game for 7 or 8 different platforms. All the last-gen consoles, the next-gen consoles, PC, Stadia, to have it run on that stuff. And then there's different SKUs of the Xbox One, Xbox Series 1, Xbox X, Xbox Pro, whatever they all are. You know what I mean? And then the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 4 Pro, PlayStation 5. And you have these different SKUs, and you have computers, and then you have the PC. I don't know, Jake. I just feel like when you're a developer and you're trying to get your code to run right on everything, I don't know. There has to be a little... I don't know, but they've had 8 years to get it together. You know what I mean?
Well, I think one of the other things too that they, for whatever reason, I don't know why game developers are afraid to do this, but if CD Projekt Red had just come out and before the launch of the game and said, look, here's what's going on with the PS4 version.
Some
of the
fucking
game.
transparency.
They should have just been like, look, we're doing everything we can to make this game run well, but right now it's running pretty poorly on these consoles. Let the people know. I mean, I bet most of the people that pre-ordered the game on PS4, if Cyberpunk or if CD Projekt Red came out and said like, hey, look, we're doing everything we can to make this run better, but it's going to launch in a pretty poor state, or just shown gameplay footage of it and say, hey, we know this isn't great, or just let fucking places like IGN and Kotaku and stuff that had preview builds of this or review
just
builds,
talk about it.
Just give them the PlayStation 4 build so they can tell people about it, and then CD Projekt Red can come out and address it and be transparent. I think that goes a lot. That goes a long way.
Instead of trying to bury stuff and hide stuff, yeah.
Then they try to bury it, and it makes them look like the fucking bad guy.
But I'm sure they tried to bury it because they wanted to protect their good name. But I mean, they did
it's
more.
Partially that, but I think it's more that they just wanted to protect their pre-order numbers, which to me is a fucking bad thing.
Yeah, right, right.
It's like, I get it. Your pre-order numbers, directly tied to your stock price and all this kind of crazy crap. And it's like, dude, there's so much hype around this game. You're going to sell a gajillion copies. Just fucking be legit about it.
Yeah.
If you just come out but granted, their investors and their board of directors and shit probably were like, they probably made CD Projekt Red not release the base console versions of this game because they wanted to bury it. And it's like,
they wanted their money. Right.
At that point, it's like, okay, what the fuck do you do?
But I mean, like anybody with a brain on their shoulders knows that when that game comes out and it's not good, that it's just going to tank the stocks. You know what I mean? It's going to tank the stocks. There's going to be so much negative press. I mean, like, it doesn't take a genius to figure that out. Maybe they just wanted to buy a little time and sold off some stock beforehand. I don't know. Something weird was going on there, but needless to say, Jake, that's what we have about Cyberpunk. It was yanked from the PSN store, so who knows when it's going back on there. Good on Sony for finally doing something, but maybe, like you said, maybe they should have just put a disclaimer up saying, hey, this game is buggy as shit. If you buy it, you're buying at your own risk right now. We'll take this warning off whenever we feel the game is sufficient, and complete. But it did go gold, so I don't know. But hey, Push Square, where I get some of my news here when we do the show, they have an article indicating that Sony has been putting a lot of effort into expanding their IP with TV shows and movies. It is unclear what properties these are, but no doubt the HBO series based on the critically acclaimed Naughty Dog game The Last of Us is sure to be included in these 10. They did indicate that 3 of the 10 will be movies and 7 of the 10 will be TV shows. Jake, do you have any opinion on them expanding their IP this way? Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think it's a bad idea? I personally feel like it can only probably do them good. I guess it depends on how much money they put into these things. I think the Last of Us HBO thing probably will go pretty well because I think Neil Druckmann's involved with that directly. But I can't even imagine or begin to speculate what these other properties would be. I mean, are we looking at maybe a Miles Morales thing? Would that be something? Are we thinking maybe a Horizon game, a Uncharted? We know the Uncharted movie. The Uncharted movie is one of them. That's one movie. One movie and one TV show for sure. So there's 8 unknowns. So I don't know. Do you have any idea? Resident Evil, could that be one with The Village coming out?
That's not a Sony property, but
it's true.
I mean, it's possible that they're just talking about movies and TV shows that Sony's. Are they talking about movies and TV shows that Sony's producing, or Sony's properties that they're making?
Sony properties.
Hmm. I mean, they could be doing like another Ratchet and Clank movie, or like
I'd be down for that.
You know, the thing, my thoughts and feelings about all this are that like I don't really care about it. I'm probably not going to watch any of it. Like to me, it doesn't matter at all.
You're not going to watch the Last of Us stuff.
I mean,
you're interested, but
if it comes out and people say it's good, then maybe I'll check it out.
Yeah.
But I don't really have any desire to.
What if they do a Walking Dead spinoff with Clementine? It's not their own property though, so yeah, they can't do that.
I mean,
what could they do?
I don't know that I would really even care about that either, because I've already heard the story. So, you know, and it's one of those things where it's like my personal opinion is that I don't really care if they do this. I'm not really going to participate in it a whole lot.
Yeah, as
long as while they do this, it doesn't affect how their games are produced. Sure. So as long as it's in no way like it's in no way affecting like the money stream for the games or what gets made or what doesn't get made, or as long as they're not being like, we got to make a game that could be turned into a TV show. Like, I don't want to see any of that shit. As long as they don't do any of that and they're just like saying, oh, we have some interesting IP that we think maybe we can make a TV show out of. Yeah. Then I'm fine with it as long as it doesn't, screw anything else up with the
100%. Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I'm curious to see what these other properties are, though. I mean, are we looking at maybe cartoons, like a Little Big Planet, what the hell, like a Sackboy cartoon, or like you said, Ratchet? Like, could there be, I mean, what do they own the Naughty Dog to maybe Crash? Can we see a Crash movie? I just don't know what properties they own. That would be
Activision owns Crash Bandicoot, so they couldn't.
So what would they even be though? Like, I can't even think what the properties would be. What could you make a TV show or a movie out of?
I mean, they can make a Horizon thing. They could make a God of War thing.
God of War. I can see God of War maybe being a cartoon or something, some sort of animated thing.
They could make, I don't know, a fucking Resogun TV show. I have no idea.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, dude.
They could make a Bloodborne thing, There's stuff that they could do. It's just
okay.
It's so much of this stuff I don't really. I mean, part of it too is that like I don't really care all that much about TV or movies generally. Yeah. So the idea of like watching a version of The Last of Us is so far down on my interest. It's kind of like I nothing it. I don't really care one way or the other.
Yeah, it's on my interest list just because I'd like to see how they actually tackle it. And if Neil Druckmann's involved, is he going to alter the story, or is he like, I don't know. I'd be curious to see.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I would have, like with The Last of Us thing, if they had come out and said, this is going to be a Last of Us, this is going to be a TV series in the universe of The Last of Us, but not Joel and Ellie's story.
What if it was Bill's story?
I mean, if it was Bill's story, or if it was like a story of one of the side characters in the notes you pick up.
Henry and Sam, dude?
Yeah, or something like that. Like, I would be way more interested if it was something like that.
I'd love to see Henry and Sam's story.
Out the universe, and it can be watched like as a companion piece to the game.
That'd be sick.
But the fact that they're just literally fucking
copying,
recreating the story of the first game, I'm like, I don't give a fuck about this. We have The Last of Us, and that game is perfect. Well, it's not perfect, but it's pretty close. So, like, how can you're never going to get me to feel that way about a TV show the way that I felt the first couple times.
Well, they're not. It's not as immersive. It's just not going to happen. It doesn't translate. You know what I mean? It just doesn't translate. So that's why video games are overtaking the market. Just the market of entertainment. You know, they make more money in the video games industry than they do in the movie industry now. But hey, you mentioned House Marquee earlier because you were talking about Resogun. So, dude, we got new gameplay clips from House Marquee's newest upcoming title, Returnal. Now, Jake, you've been pretty outspoken about how much you hate the title of this game. But that aside, I think it looks pretty promising. But Jake, what are your thoughts on Returnal? And just for the record, it is slated to release on March 19th, 2021, and it is a PS5 game. The one controversial thing about this game is that it is retailing at $69.99 currently, and people are thinking that it's going to affect the sales of this game. And we know that it's House Marquee is going out on a limb, and they're doing something a little more expansive with more of a narrative. But there was a survey on Push Square and about this price specifically for this game, and there were over 3,500 votes, and more than half of them indicated that they would be waiting for a discount to purchase this game, which probably isn't a good sign considering the price tag.
Those people need to just go ahead and eat a dick. I mean, because like,
boom,
seriously, like if you go on the PlayStation 5 store right now, 75+% of the games that are next gen games, not, you know, some fucking port of some
are $69.99.
game, they're $70. I mean, that's the way that the generation is going. So you better get the fuck used to it, right?
Are people looking at this game as an indie game when they think it shouldn't be full price, maybe?
It could be. I mean, it could be that, yeah, they're looking at Housemarque like, oh yeah, Housemarque made fucking Super Stardust and shit. So it's like, okay, well, if they make these, you know, $20 indie games, why should I pay $70 for a game? I look at them, I'm like, okay, so first of all, Housemarque doesn't make bad games.
No, they made Resogun, Alien Nation.
So they've made some games that like don't hit as well as others. Like, you know, Alien Nation didn't hit as well.
Matterfall was really good.
Yeah, Matterfall, like they didn't hit as well as a game like Resogun or Super Stardust, but they weren't bad games. So yeah, I mean, this is a little bit of a step up for them in terms of like.
Did they do Dead Nation?
Task they're undertaking. They did do a Dead Nation.
Dead Nation had a pretty good narrative. I mean, even though it wasn't like a good. So this is like, I watched this developer interview with Housemarque about this game, and they were talking about how they actually have a narrative staff. So they have a storytelling staff for this game. This is one of the directions that they went with this game to kind of make it feel maybe more like a story instead of just gameplay. Now, we know for the most part they're really good with gameplay. It's something.
I mean, if you look at the trailer of this game,
yeah,
it looks fucking awesome.
Yeah, it looks fantastic.
It literally looks like it looks like not like a Resogun game, but it looks like a Housemarque game.
It's a third-person game.
Made the evolution to a third-person action game.
It looks really good.
The combat, like the freaking, you know, the bullet hell kind of atmosphere, like it looks really good. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. I think it's going to be probably a pretty decent game. Although my biggest disappointment about the game is that, and maybe they'll turn it around or whatever, I just don't care about this story concept of like reliving the same day over and over again. Like the whole fucking Groundhog Day thing.
What movie was that? There was a movie like this with Tom Cruise in it.
I don't know, but I know that like, you know, there's Groundhog Day was like the OG, right? And then like I think part
it's
of
called
it
Live Die Repeat. Edge of Tomorrow was the name of the movie. It was actually a really fucking good movie if you've never seen it.
So part of it too is like when they announced Returnal, in the same fucking press conference, they announced
Stormdivers,
Deathloop,
which
is the same fucking idea. I mean, yeah, maybe your goal is a little bit different, right? But like, it's like, oh, you have 24 hours to fucking do this thing, and if you die, you just start over. It's like, okay, so I'm reliving the same experience over and over again. And Returnal is like, you're reliving the same experience, break the cycle.
I'm not going to lie. Being like locked up in my house right now, I feel like that's my current life. It's like I'm reliving the same day over and over again. With the exception of when we record a podcast or something fun happens in my life, I just feel like the same day is just repeated day in and day out. So yeah, maybe I don't dig that idea either right now, but think it's okay for a video game if it's executed correctly. We'll see.
Well, and we don't know what the actual main beat of the story is for this game yet. Like, it could be that, you know, the mechanism for her reliving the same day is really interesting. Or it could be that it's just like fucking Deathloop, where it's like, oh, when you die, you just start the day over again. And then that's like, okay. I mean, to me, it's just like, you couldn't think of like it's like they tried to like bring in this kind of story concept to sort of give like a narrative explanation for respawning in the game.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like, I'm sure it will be great. I don't care.
Is this a day one purchase for you? Returnal? It's a PS5 game. I don't even think it's a PS4 game. I think it's just PS5 exclusive.
It depends what's going on at the time.
Or next gen exclusive.
If there's some other shit going on, I might be interested.
Like, when does Ratchet hit the ground?
Mean, we don't know. I mean, I'm assuming Ratchet won't be out till later, since we don't even know the release date for Ratchet yet. So I'm guessing it'll be out after Returnal. Returnal, I mean, I'll be honest with you, it looks like a game that I want to play.
Yeah, me too. So 100%.
It's one of those things now where, like, very rarely anymore do I buy a game before I've read reviews of it. So, like,
but it's Housemarque, though. It's got to be decent.
Yeah, my only reservation is that they've never done a third-person shooter before. So the camera is different, the controls are different. Like, it's not a twin stick shooter. It's like you actually have to have kind of agile and snappy controls, like Twitch controls, kind of, especially the way that the combat looks. It looks very frenetic and like super high, like fast paced and stuff. So, you know, I want to make sure that, but dude, it looks so good. Like, I'll be honest, the more I think about watching, the more, because I did watch the Game Awards trailer for it. Yeah. And the more I think about that trailer, I'm just like, man, this game looks so much fun to play.
It looks awesome. Like, it looks awesome.
It almost looks like someone freaking mashed up like
Alien.
I don't know, like
Alien and Doom.
Groundhog Day and Alien or something.
It's awesome.
It's weird. It looks great though.
Yeah. All right. So moving on, Returnal looks awesome. We both agree on that. Let's see what happens here in March when it comes out. The PlayStation blog, which is PlayStation.blog, has some really fun Christmas cards. They're digital for viewing from some of your favorite game developers. This is a really nice thing, Jake, to see every holiday, and it sounds like more studios are jumping on this bandwagon, to my approval. Now, it is one of those things where I think Naughty Dog was doing it. I don't want to say they were the first, but I remember seeing Naughty Dog post Christmas cards with their different characters and stuff on here. But we have Christmas cards on the PlayStation.blog. It's really fun, actually. We've got Civilization from 2K, NBA 2K21, PGA 2K21. So game-specific Christmas cards. We got Call of Duty, Black Ops Cold War Christmas card, Activision Crash Bandicoot, Activision Tony Hawk Pro Skater. There's Christmas cards from Ben Studio. I think it's Days Gone, the guy on the bike just like ripping across the Christmas card. And there's like snow everywhere.
I'll be honest with you, like most of them, I did look at them all, and I was like, most of them, I'm like, oh, you know, that's neat. But like my favorite one in that whole list is the Cuphead one.
Oh, it's
like,
awesome.
The art is so good, and like the card is so like kind of cheerful and Christmassy, and I think it's like the Cuphead guys like in a sleigh like flying around and shit. Like
the Pro Skater one's pretty cool.
Which one?
The Pro Skater one.
I don't know if I remember that one.
It's a dude. It's a dude grinding on like a parking lot thing, and it's colored like a candy cane, and like snowmen are watching, and then it just looks kind of like punk rock. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's a skeleton, you know. It's like a skeleton snowman or something. It's pretty cool looking. I don't know. It's just like something that would be graffitied somewhere. But yeah, no, you're right. You're right. There's one that's like really tactful. London Studios looks really tactful. It's like their logo, but it's attached to a snowflake. So it's kind of subliminal, hidden in there. But yeah, if you guys are looking for anything, there's one with Aloy, which is kind of cute. But yeah, it's kind of fun to see these, you know, and it's I'm not going to lie. Like, I like looking at these every holiday. Like when these game companies do this, it's like, oh yeah, I remember that game. Or like, oh yeah, that's cool. And you can tell they put some time into their art department. Some of these are really cool. They're really neat. So if you haven't checked them out, check those out. The Naughty Dog one was really vague too. It was just like, looked like cross stitch. And it was like, I don't know what it was. It was just like the front of like a fence and some deer or something. But yeah, it wasn't very, very obvious. So subtlety was the way they went with that. But so moving on, PlayStation, their Sackboy Big Adventure seemed to be a pretty underappreciated game. Now has online multiplayer support. Jake, I haven't played this game, but I was talking to my buddy LJ, who listens to the show. He's a listener. And he said that that game's pretty cool, pretty sick. So I think if that game would have just waited a bit to get released, if it wouldn't have been a release game and maybe would have released around right now, I don't know if it would have got more attention than Cyberpunk. But maybe a February release, because I don't think there's really a lot coming out between now and maybe Returnal or Ratchet. I think if they would have just postponed the release of Sackboy's Big Adventure, I think they would have got more attention. The PS5 kind of stole all the thunder from that game.
I don't know. I mean, Sackboy is one of those IP that it's going to do what it's going to do in terms of sales. Like, I don't know that releasing it at an odd time it might help it a little bit, but I don't think it's going to convert it from like a dud to like a multi-million-dollar seller. So like, to be honest with you, I almost bought it recently because I thought, that would be kind of a cool game for Sarah and I to play together locally. But I realized I don't have a second DualSense controller.
Yeah, dude,
and I don't want to fucking play the PS4 version. Yeah. So I decided not to get it, and because I haven't bought a second DualSense yet. Christmas is coming around, and I don't know if like. Sometimes my brother will buy me shit and stuff, or like my parents might think of something, or my wife. So like, I didn't want to like go out and buy a controller and then end up with 3 of them because I won't use 3.
Dude, speaking of picking up PS5 games, you and I both said it like the new Call of Duty would be a game that we would try to rent. Maybe can you rent PS5 games right now?
I don't know that I've seen it. I mean, it used to be you could rent some in
the Redbox.
You could rent them in Redbox, but.
It'd be pretty sick to play. I've been thinking more and more about that campaign, and I really want to play it. But I also equally really want to play Miles Morales. So anyways, moving forward, the PlayStation blog had their own awards this year outside of the Video Game Awards. And because it's the end of the year, Jake, and we mainly have only Cyberpunk to discuss, I thought it'd be fun to maybe take a quick look at their awards, being that they are exclusive to PlayStation games, and we are a PlayStation podcast. So let's rip through these real quick. They don't need to go through them all. But it's kind of nice to see Sony giving a nod to their own properties with what they kind of felt. So best narrative was The Last of Us Part 2. And it's neat the way they did this. They gave platinum, gold, silver, and bronze trophies for all of these. The runner-up was in order. We'll go platinum and then down the list to gold, silver, bronze. Best narrative was Last of Us Part 2. Ghost of Tsushima, Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales, and Final Fantasy VII Remake. Best use of the DualSense was Astro's Playroom, and then Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, and then Demon's Souls. Best accessibility features, Last of Us Part 2, which they won for the Game Awards also. Ghost of Tsushima, Marvel Spider-Man Morales, and Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So that's not only. So it must be all PlayStation games available on PlayStation. Best graphical showcase, Last of Us Part 2. Man, there's really taking the cake here. Ghost of Tsushima, Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales, and Demon's Souls. Best art direction was Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us Part 2, Marvel Spider-Man, and Final Fantasy VII Remake. Best soundtrack, Last of Us Part 2. Jesus. Ghost of Tsushima, Marvel Spider-Man, and Final Fantasy VII. Best sound design, Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, Call of Duty, Demon's Souls. Best multiplayer, this is going to be interesting, Call of Duty Warzone, Fall Guys, Ultimate Knockout, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, and Ghost of Tsushima Legends. Best sports game was Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, which also won the Game Awards. Best runner-up was FIFA 21, NBA 2K21, and Dirt 5. Best new character, this is a cool category, Miles Morales. And then runner-up was Jin Sakai from Ghost of Tsushima, Abby from The Last of Us Part 2, and Ivor from Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Best indie game, Fall Guys, Bug Snacks, Worms Rumble, and Skater XL. Gaming moment of the year, I'm not getting spoilers, but Last of Us Part 2 Final Showdown. Ghost of Tsushima horseback title sequence. Marvel Spider-Man the bridge sequence. And that's Miles Morales. And then Astro's Playroom, experiencing haptics and adaptive triggers for the first time. Best PS VR experience was Star Wars Battle Squadrons, or Star Wars Squadrons, Marvel's Iron Man VR, Dreams, Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners. Best PS4 game of the year was Last of Us Part 2, then Ghost of Tsushima, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales. PS5 game of the year, PS5 just came out, but Marvel Spider-Man, Demon's Souls, Assassin's Creed, and Astro's Playroom coming in last. Most anticipated game was the new God of War title, and then Horizon Forbidden West, Resident Evil Village, and Final Fantasy 16. And Studio of the Year was Naughty Dog, then Insomniac, Sucker Punch, and Square Enix. And that was it. So those are interesting to see. They clearly favored The Last of Us Part 2, which really isn't a surprise. That game was so polished. Any opinion on any of those, Jake?
I'll be honest. Like, a lot of these award shows,
what do they mean?
They're such a popularity contest that I just fucking zone out.
It's like, a sticker on the next release of that game.
It doesn't even matter because everybody else is going to claim that they won Game of the Year anyway. So, like, there's going to be fucking Game of the Year edition of, freaking Sackboy. So, like, why does it even matter? None of it matters. And especially a year like this where it's like a game like The Last of Us Part 2 cleaned house. And it's like, okay, that's cool, I guess. But, like, I don't think that The Last of Us Part 2 was the best in all of those categories. I think that it's just people like that fucking game so much, and it's so, like, it has such a strong message. They're like, oh, we got to give every award to it.
Right.
And that's what I mean by it being like a popularity contest. Like, I just don't give a shit about any of these award things.
Well, I think it means more to the studios than it does to the fans. I think it means a lot to the studios because it means the next time they release that game, whether it be a remaster or whether they release it as the PlayStation hits, they can put that little insignia on it and say, like, PlayStation Game of the Year 2020, and then that just helps move units. I think it's one of those things, and they probably get a little award, and they can pat themselves on the back and say, hey, guys, we did it. We got to appreciate it. It's like one of those things that, like, as a musician, we won that Rock Erie Music Award, and we never asked for it. We didn't even really put in for it. We didn't know that we were nominated for it, and out of nowhere, we got a message, and they were saying, are you coming to the award show? And we're like, what? And then Jim and I drove down, and we actually won this award, and it was like, it's weird to accept an award for something artistic to begin with because you're in a community of like-minded people, and, it is bragging rights to a degree, but at the same time, it's like one of those things where it's like, hey, you know what? They appreciate what we did. All this hard work, not only, with our band, we didn't make a lot of money. We don't make much money at all. So it's not like, not only did we make something and we're compensated for it financially, but you guys are saying as an artistic community that you guys really appreciate what we did here. With music, it's usually just like someone's like, I appreciate what you did, or I like what you've done and it's helped me, or it's, there's a positive thing in my life. With video games, I think as a developer being part of a team, getting an award like that probably means way more to them than it does for us as consumers to see the award just being thrown out there. I don't know. That's my opinion, but I think it's more for the developers.
I'm sure that you're right. It's just one of those things where, like, I feel like there's a vast gap between, the award that One Up by Land got, which was very, like, kind of personal,
regional, right? Yeah,
sort of like it was more kind of, I don't know if heartfelt is the right word, but like more kind of just authentic, versus like the Game Awards where it's just the games that are going to win are going to be like the ones that sold the most copies, that people loved the most,
that earned Sony the most money. They're going to say the top games.
It's one of those things where, like, once it gets to a certain amount of like exposure, in terms of like how many people have played it, like what its social networking presence is, like how the memes are flowing, like all of that stuff goes into account. It's not like in the Grammys, or not the Grammys, the Oscars, when sometimes like a super unknown, like weird fucking indie flick like Parasite or something like that wins Best Picture.
Right.
It's like, okay, that I can get behind because Well, I think there's a lot of other issues with the Oscars, being run by a bunch of fucking crotchety old men in tuxedos.
To see like an underdog story, like someone from the gutter.
Yeah, I mean, at least it makes sense. Like, it seems like they're actually looking at all these movies and making an educated decision, and it's not just this fucking popularity contest.
Right.
Whereas, like, a lot of times with games, I don't know that the decision making is that refined. Mm-hmm. I think it more often than not just is reflective of the pulse of the community in general.
And you have to realize this too, with when it comes to video game development, it requires an insane amount of money to release like a AAA game. So The Last of Us, we know Naughty Dog is rolling in cash. They had the means to make that game. Now, granted, that's not saying they didn't need the talent or they didn't need like the people that are working. They're very special to that kind of game, and they've pretty much mastered the third-person story game better than any studio out there. And it requires a ton of money and an entirely large amount of overhead to get a game like that off the ground. So right out of the gates, a lot of these studios don't have that kind of bankroll to do that. So it's already like the Pittsburgh Pirates versus the Yankees. It's just like, some of these studios can only afford so much. Maybe they would love to make a game like The Last of Us and have the resources to do it and have the money to do it and be able to pay the team as big as Naughty Dog has and be able to put that kind of time and be like Sony's, golden child. They would love to be in that position, but they're just not. So when these awards get doled out, chances are if you're the underdog, you're going to have to make something 10 times more special to get noticed. And that's going to be tough for some of those studios, you know what I mean, that are still operating independently and trying to get this stuff done. And, you got to realize that there's a huge margin of income and resources between these studios. Not everybody starts with their foot on the same starting line, I don't think, and we got to remember that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, it would be frustrating to be like an indie developer who spent 4 years making a game that there was no way in hell it was going to be as nearly as polished as like something like The Last of Us Part 2, but you did your best and it's still solid, but it's just not going to get fucking noticed because you have this giant in the business. You know what I mean? Like, it would be so frustrating.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's to me, I feel like we've beat this idea to death, but like, to me, it seems like if you look at the Game Awards, in my opinion, when I look at the Game Awards, they have all these fucking awards that they give out. The fact that The Last of Us won like fucking all of them and Doom Eternal got nothing? Like,
yeah, that is crazy.
Nothing,
that's
right?
crazy.
I'm like, okay, that doesn't fucking make any sense because from a gameplay perspective, from like a soundtrack perspective, like Doom Eternal is fucking amazing.
Couldn't they?
I can understand, maybe not wanting to,
give it the game of the year or something, right?
The Last of Us winning a lot of the shit, but it's like, man, I mean, it seems like
they could have made a category up.
How many awards can we give to The Last of Us?
They could have made a category up, like best original first-person shooter of 2019 or 2020 or whatever. You know what I mean? They could have made that up. Like, Call of Duty's not very original. Doom was pretty fucking cool. So,
yeah, I don't understand.
I don't know. Whatever. It is what it is. Well, Jake, that's all I have for the show. I appreciate you coming on late tonight. It is getting late, and I have to work tomorrow. So we're going to call it a night, man. But thanks for being here. Was there any last message that you wanted to give to the listener? We're close to Christmas.
No, I hope that everyone has a good holiday. And
yeah.
I'll be honest with you, like I'm not Jewish or anything, but Dave Grohl and this other guy they did like the 8 days of Hanukkah.
Yeah.
And they did a cover for every day. And
that's
they're
cool.
all really good.
That's
I don't know if you've seen them, Fred.
No,
they're all really good.
That's cool. So maybe check that out. Listeners can check that out. Did they on YouTube?
And, if you're try to be safe. If you're traveling, be safe. Do whatever the fuck you want to do. I don't care. Everyone's going to get coronavirus anyway eventually. So, go out and see your family, but try to be like careful about it. Don't like have a fucking gathering of like 150 people. But if you want to go see your parents on Christmas, I'm not going to shame you for it. So,
right. Either way.
Yeah. But it's an interesting thing. I don't know if you saw Fred, but we're supposed to get like a gazillion feet of snow tomorrow.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a blizzard, man. It's supposed to be nasty.
So we might end up with a white Christmas here, which is interesting because it was almost 50 degrees here today.
Yeah.
But
it's so unprecedented. Yeah, it's weird.
I don't know. That's all I have. I hope I can play. We didn't really talk about the games we're playing in this show because I don't think have played a video game since the last podcast. So I've just been busy working on my bathroom. So hopefully I get to play more games after the holiday.
Yeah.
Because most of the hard work is done. I don't know what I'm going to pick up. I've been looking at that. It looks so generic and so stupid in the promotional material, but I've been hearing a lot of good things about that Immortals Phoenix Rising game.
Yeah, I've heard good things also.
I might kind of check into that a little bit more.
I'm still Miles not Morales.
Ready to pull it. What's that?
You should get Miles Morales.
I might play that too. I don't know. We'll see we'll see how I feel. I don't think I'm going to pull the trigger on Cyberpunk just yet. I really do want to play it, but
it's so good.
I want it to be a little bit more polished before I spend time on it.
Yeah, I'm kicking ass in Cyberpunk world right now. It's in Night City. I'm just making that city my bitch. It's so good. Anyways, all right, Jake. Well, thanks for joining me and the listeners today for episode 162 of PS This Is Awesome. Like Jake said, you guys have a wonderful Christmas. Just like last episode, I wanted to grace you all with our personal Christmas song. So at the end, we have the same song that was on the last episode. But if you're new to the show and you haven't heard it, or if you have heard it, you're going to get listen to it again. It's called "'Tis the Season" in NWPA. And we really do wish you guys a Merry Christmas, and we will be back in the new year. So, like Shinobi, Silent Hill, and Soul Calibur, P.S. This is awesome. Tis the season.